This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Welcome to The Edge, Trek FM's dedicated Star Trek Discovery podcast. I am your host for today, Brandon-Shea Mutala, and I am very excited to be discussing this latest episode, Vaulting Ambition. And joining me today are two wonderful Star Trek fans. We have got Heather Barker. How are you doing, Heather?
I'm good. I'm excited to be back. I have been hankering to talk about Discovery more. I can't get enough. And this is a great episode to come back to. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And joining us as well is Tim Williamson. Is Williamson, right?
Williamson.
Tim Williamson. So you are Suzanne Williamson's husband, and Suzanne is one of the co-hosts of our Star Trek Voyager podcast called To the Journey. And Tim, this is your first podcasting experience.
Yes, it is. It's very exciting. A little nervous, too.
Don't be shy. You gotta, pound your chest and scream and squeal and be like, oh my goodness! Because that's how I was last night watching the episode, that's for sure.
Yep.
So, yeah, we had a lot of things happen. We don't have a news segment for you today, so we're just going to jump right into the discussion of the episode. I've got four main topics that I want to hit. There's a lot of good in this episode. There was a lot that I liked. There was a couple things that I'm just like, boo. But we'll get to those as we move along throughout the episode here. First topic I'm going to hit is the one that we tend to talk about the most here on the podcast. We're going to start right off the bat with Voq. So L'Rell stated in here that there was a real Tyler who was captured at the Battle of the Binary Stars, and they used him as a template to then place that, to use it as a template to surgically alter Voq into looking like a human, and then they took his DNA and his, brain engrams or mumbo jumbo, and then they put it on top of Voq. And I don't know. I think that's a really interesting idea that there actually was an Ash Tyler. So, Heather, what did you think up until now? Were you thinking, once we had the Voq reveal, were you thinking there was no Ash Tyler, it was all fake, or did you think there was one? What did you think?
No, I thought that there was one. It just made the most sense with what sciencing I can try to do in my head. This is one of those things where I like to throw out my "it's science fiction, y'all," because trying to figure out how this could actually happen is just, I don't want to do that because then I won't believe it. So I just kind of suspend belief. The flashbacks that we had, and especially these recent ones where we've kind of got, I understood it as proof of, there's Ash Tyler on a table and then there's Voq on a table. Mm-hmm. And then the specifics of what all they did is still kind of shady-ish. But my question was kind of moving forward, what were we going to see? Were we going to see essentially a Ash Tyler personality struggle with the Voq personality, and then it become kind of a discussion of, what makes us human? Is if Ash triumphs, is that the human triumphing? So I'm pleased with what we've seen so far, and the performance from Shazad Latif is just blown it out of the water. So I'm happy, even though we kind of figured it all out. I like what they've done with it. I thought the reveal for him was really great. And I liked this episode. I thought it was really interesting with L'Rell. expected her to do a little bit more than she did. And I'm kind of confused.
She hasn't really done a lot, and I've been kind of intrigued by that because, when this started, I pictured all these people as main characters, like Chris Obie and Michelle Yeoh and Mary Chieffo. Like, I pictured all these people as being main characters, and it kind of hasn't really turned out to be that way. So, Tim, so you've stayed away from social media. So how many of these spoilers did you know ahead of time? Because with us in the Trek community, we've been exposed to a lot of these spoilers. So the theory that Ash Tyler was actually Voq has been around since 5 minutes after his first episode.
So since I do stay off social media or whatnot, there weren't any spoilers per se. However, from pretty early on, that's what I had figured as well. Though I have to admit, I was really hoping they weren't going to give so many answers. Like, I felt like they came out a little too strongly and just said, all right, this is Voq, and explained everything. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't say as much. Probably a little bit more drama, I guess. I really, really liked the character, actually, Ash Tyler. I liked his interaction with Captain. So I'm actually going to miss that if, that persona goes away. So,
it's interesting because I'm wondering now at the end there, it sure is a good thing that they happen to have a pair of those Klingon brain transforming gloves in sickbay, right? Just happen to have a pair of those there, which is pretty convenient. But based on what I saw there, she was rewiring his brain to turn him back into Voq, right? So now when we see him again, is he going to be talking Klingon the whole time? Is he just going to be like Voq in human skin?
And that's where I'm confused because I thought by the end, because he was talking like Ash again. And then with the Klingon wailing, like a lot of people thought that was like the death cry. And so I'm seeing people believing that now Ash is there and that Voq is dead, that like somehow she killed Voq. So I don't know what to think.
Ooh, that's interesting. See, I didn't read that thought, but I understand what you're saying there. You think that she rewired him to get rid of Voq completely.
Yeah, like I thought that she was trying to bring Voq forward, like fully bring him forward as part of her plan that we've known. But as it was happening, he started off, speaking in the Klingon Voq's voice. And then by the end of it, and he was talking about I should have written it down, bring me something about a father, a mother, brother, sister,
mother,
family.
Drink, brother, sister, family. Yeah, I remember what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so by the end of it, he was talking in Ash's voice again. And so to me, I thought that just something happened and that she couldn't pull Voq forward and that somehow the Ash personality triumphed over it and then Voq is dead. So frankly, I'm not quite sure what exactly happened.
Yeah, that's interesting because that was the Klingon yell, but I'm like, I almost interpreted that as more of a trigger for him to remember the death cry for T'Kuvma and on the ship there, just another trigger for him to remember being Klingon. So, but I like your interesting take there that
and
she might have been.
And they had the montage. Sorry, but
right.
they had that montage of the moments between her and Voq. So, to me, I think for Star Trek, and given that we like to see the good people win, if Ash is the personality that triumphed here, it does lend to that discussion of what it means to be human and that this human part of him somehow beat out this, bad Klingon part of him.
But that's the thing. It wouldn't have beat it out. It would have been L'Rell beating it. And I guess I don't understand what her motivation would be to remove the Voq personality. That would be the only thing that I don't understand. So
I'm guessing that we're going to get those loose ends tied up in the next 3 episodes, but I'm a little confused with what happened. I want to see more Ash Tyler, and I would be disappointed if that was the end of Voq.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get much Voq to begin with.
Right.
So to have such a prominent character really play such a minor part in it all, I want more. So I'm definitely curious to see what happens.
Tim, what do you think? Do you think we're going to end up with Voke, or are we going to end up with Tyler, or are we going to end up with, two for the price of one?
Actually, I would see a tragic ending. I mean, I know she went through the surgery with little gloves or whatnot, and I just can't believe with the storyline and whatnot that either personality is going to be gone. I'm more likely to see the character itself get killed off at some point, and you lose both.
Okay.
It'd just be more tragic. I know Star Trek is supposed to be more positive, but I could just see the two personalities, even though they've done everything they've done, still fighting it out basically all the way up until the very last moment.
Yeah.
And
I'm just getting interrupt for 1 second here. I just got to take a bite of my supper. I've got it here. I'm having Saru stew for supper tonight. And man, this ganglia just tastes delicious. Sorry.
Delicious.
Oh, it's so good. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, let's keep going. So, anyways, we'll talk about that in a bit. I just needed to get that in there somewhere because that was just like mind-boggling. Last thing I got to pipe on this here is Jeff Russo's music is just amazing. And that scene, when they cut to the flashbacks of Voke, like, the music that was playing was just so amazing. And there was so many great music cues in this episode. Jeff Russo, I love you. You are awesome. I hope you're listening. High five.
Hear, hear.
Excellent. Let's talk about Stamets next. Okay, so I have a theory with this, but I want to talk about it at the end because I kind of want to leave it at a point in the episode where if people don't want to hear the theory, because out of any theory I've come up with, I actually really believe that it's not that crazy, but I really think it's one that's going to happen. But here we go. We got Mirror Stamets meeting up with Stamets inside the mycelium network. And they're talking to each other. And we find out that basically Mirror Stamets has been trapped inside the mycelium network for basically the entire time that we've been with the Discovery crew. Okay, because he had some sort of accident on Georgiou's ship, and he ended up with his mind trapped in there. And he's been communicating in images to our Stamets. And that's how Stamets has been having this confusing information of seeing Captain Tilly and seeing the palace and things like that. And then while they're in there, however, he finds this ghost something or other of Culber who tells him, don't really trust this guy because he's just self-serving and he's actually destroying the network. So there's a lot to unpack there. But the first thing I kind of want to talk about is, what is this Culber? Is this just a figment in his mind? Because based on the way that he died, I don't see how his consciousness could end up in the mycelium network. What do you think, Heather?
Yeah, I don't quite get it either. They'll tell us on After Trek to read the real Paul Stamets' book about the mycelium network and how that will help explain what things are.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I think that the lack of science in this episode is a little difficult with understanding everything that's going on. I'm not sure what it is, and I will say that I enjoyed the interactions that they had. Back to, I think, the last episode where Ash told Burnham he was her tether. Culber very much served as a tether in this ether world to bring Stamets back to us. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that we got to see them again, but unfortunately, I don't see Culber coming back in any real way. Yeah. He's not going to be back on the Discovery. If they're ever back in the Prime Universe, he's not coming back that way. And I'll get, I'm not going to go into my whole tangent and talking about how difficult that is, having lost this really great character. I'm glad that we got to see him, and I found the interaction that he had with Stamets pretty meaningful and touching. But as far as what's actually happening, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
It's less sciencey to me and more metaphysical. But that's not necessarily where Star Trek likes to go. So again, maybe they'll reveal more about how this works before the season ends.
Yeah. Tim, what do you think?
So I had a little different take on it. So after he's killed, Stamets holds him in his arms, and if we can just say brain activity continues for a few more minutes after death, I mean, you've got brain activity. Stamets is holding him. Maybe he acted as a conduit. I try not to read too far into it because I just really like both characters. So anytime I get a chance to see either of the characters, I'm really happy. My gut tells me we're going to see him come back some way, shape, or form. But I saw a lot more of the original series in Voyager and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit more willing to believe like non-sciencey stuff to happen. I'm just really projecting, I guess. But I could definitely see Stamets acting as a conduit for the mycelium network and bringing him into it, and hopefully maybe enough of his presence is there somehow to transform into another body or whatever. Mm-hmm. Who knows? It's very interesting. I love their interaction. My favorite.
I have to commend Stamets for being like so level-headed, finding out that Culber was dead. And I mean, I guess that helps to have Culber in front of you saying that he's dead.
By the way, I'm dead, so let's have a little goodbye.
But man, I mean, I was just surprised that there was not more of an emotional reaction, but there was just so much going on, trying to imagine where your mind is when you're not even on Earth. You're in this network. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. I mean, overall, I like the scene, so yay. But
what I got out of this is Culber's dead. He's not coming back. I don't think he's going to come back. And I didn't address this too much in the last 2 episodes, but I got to say, one of the things that I'm frustrated about the show right now is the spoilers that have happened and the way that they have happened, right? I mean, I don't think I would have predicted, and I've said this before, I wouldn't have predicted the Mirror Universe stuff had not Jonathan Frakes let that spill. And honestly, what happened with Culber, I wouldn't have predicted him coming back in any way, shape, or form had they not tried to put out the social media fire that they had after his death, where they're like, trust me, I'll be back. My best stuff is yet to come. And it's like, why are you telling me that here, okay?
Because they knew they'd be in trouble.
Right. So I go back to what I said in the episode when he died. I understand what they're doing, but I just question the logic of making that decision of killing off that character in 2017. Or, 2018, I guess, is when it happened, right? I just question the logic of them making that decision. If they are sitting there and they filmed After Trek ahead of time, right? That week. I may be wrong on this, but I heard that they had filmed it ahead of time. So if I'm wrong, let me know. But they knew they were going to have a social media revolt when this happened. Yeah. And for them to have to go online within minutes and say, trust me, my best work is yet to come, you know you've done something wrong. I understand, and going into this show, I knew characters were going to die, and it's that hard question of, okay, so because of these tropes in the past, should we not be killing gay people? And I almost think the answer is yes at this time, right? You know,
yes.
So because of this blowback that has happened, so I hope he's dead and we don't see him again. And I know that sounds cold, but I don't watch After Trek, and you know, I don't really want to know what's going on, but unfortunately, being a member of Trek FM and talking about this, I'm exposed to a lot more than I would want to know, right? So
yeah, it's definitely difficult, and that's the thing. Like when we talk about expectations and what we expected from this show, sure, we can say we never thought they'd go into the Mirror Universe, but as a queer person, knowing that we're going to get queer characters, you know what I anticipated? One of those characters would get killed. I didn't think, honestly, I didn't even really think it would happen this season, and I did not think it would be Stamets for sure. Culber, I felt, had a target on his back simply because that's the way that things have gone. And I've talked about it in Disco Trek when it happened, in my reaction, and it was not something that I ever wanted to see. And I'm
and
also
you've
very
seen
tired
it like
of,
every 15 seconds. They're like,
yes,
remember that Snap?
Yes,
Snap. Previously on Snap. Oh, they remember that Snap.
And
it's
I'm
like, oh my goodness.
Please stop. I've kind of said this, and I mean, who am I? I'm not pleading to anyone. You know, the writers aren't listening to me. But thankfully, I actually missed it in the recap. But then it was in the episode again, after being in last week's episode. And I think I said an expletive and turned my head and just, I'm really tired of seeing it. And it's where I'm frustrated too, because I think that Star Trek writers know better. I think that they went ahead and did this anyway. I'm not going to try to peg Aaron Harberts or Anthony Rapp or Wilson Cruz, who are all gay men, into somebody tried to say I was calling them a certain thing by insinuating that they're doing it, going through with this, knowing what it means to the gay community. This is their job. And I know that they have faith in what they're doing and they believe in the work that they're doing. And I commend them for that. But it's just difficult for the audience. They knew this was going to happen. They knew the blowback was coming. That's why they came back. That's why they're still crusading and saying how, GLAAD has stood behind them and they're nominated for some award, and trying to make it seem like it's a really okay thing. And it's actually not an okay thing. I'm hanging in there. And like I said, I like seeing the interaction between them. I just don't think that this character is going to be redeemed. Like his death is going to be redeemed in some amazing way that's going to make it all better.
Right. Moving on. So a little bit more on this, mycelium network here. So we've got an answer here, and I don't know that a lot of people maybe don't realize that we've been given an answer in this last episode. But one of the big questions is, and I've been seeing a lot of memes lately with Catherine Janeway saying, 70,000 light years from home, fire up the mycelium network and get us out of here. So the question is, why don't we have the mycelium network in other Star Trek? And we've basically been given the answer in this episode. Mir Stamets has done something to it that he's destroying the network. So the network is not going to be functioning for much longer. And the all of the mushroom spores in the Discovery are dead. We see that at the very end of the episode. So I think that's interesting. That's a little nugget there. Maybe people do realize this, but I don't think a lot of people realize the importance of what that means, that is the reason why we don't have a mycelium network going forward. Am I reading too much into this, or what do you guys think? Tim, let's start with you.
Are we allowed to talk about something else for just a moment? Go back for just a second?
Absolutely.
I don't go on social media. So for me, watching Stamets' interaction with his husband, they're my favorite characters on the show. And to see the tragedy unfolds broke my heart. I love like Modern Family or even Walking Dead. I love to see the different interactions, especially in this day and age. But to be able to see tragedy and be an equalizer, everybody faces tragedy. I had no idea there was this big backlash or anything like that. I was just sad and heartbroken to see what happened. Mm-hmm. Everybody faces tragedy. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to miss seeing the interactions, but after watching other shows where it's all normal now, and as it should be, I like the fact that it's portrayed in a normal sense. Mm-hmm. Things happen. They're in a different universe. People are going to die. Nobody's special. Nobody's protected because it's all normal.
Right.
I love that. There is no difference in anybody.
Right.
I love seeing that. Yeah. So
what you may not know, and what I didn't know either, is in that episode, Mike Schindler, he messaged me afterward, and he's like, "Oh, people are gonna be very upset about this because of barrier gaze," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" I'd never even heard that term myself. Right? So if you're not involved in social media, you may not either. And basically, in a nutshell, the majority of gay representation on screen ends up with one of the characters dying. Right? Or both, or something like there's some tragedy happening. And so in a nutshell, the trope has become, it's society's way of having a justification for them being gay, that they get their justice in the end by having tragedy befall them. Right? So that's what the trope is. I only know it because of this. I mean, the only other show that I know of where a character was gay and died was Walking Dead. And I don't think it would fall under that category because everybody's dying on Walking Dead, right? So
exactly.
Like I don't think that would classify. But what do I know either, right? That's the first time I heard of this thing was 3 weeks ago. Same
here. Until you said something, I had no idea. I was just kind of watching the show, and falling for characters as you would. So
right, and then the concern is, so here we go. We finally have this representation on the show for the first time. And within 10 episodes, one of them's dead. So they no longer have that representation on the show, right? So that's the blowback. And I apologize that we kind of jumped past that for you there, Tim.
No problem. I'm just glad we were able to talk about it because I'm sure there's people like me out there who just watch the show. I purposely have to stay off social media. So this is really, I'd like to know this so that when I see stuff in the future, I see it in a different light.
Well, now you know.
Yeah.
And that's why people that don't know what GLAAD is, which Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, finally, Google GLAAD and learn a little bit about them, and Google Bury Your Gays and see what comes up, because, you know, it's important, because a portion of our population, like me, watches and it just waits. I'm like, this is what I expect is going to happen, so let me just wait and see. And sadly, what I thought would happen. Whereas to someone who doesn't see it that way, they're just another, you know, hopefully beautiful, wonderful couple, happy couple, very much in love couple. And their love they're not like both lovey-dovey. Like it's a unique relationship in and of itself. So there's definitely lots of layers. You're not the first person who I've heard say that, you know, despite being heterosexual, you know, this gay couple's their favorite couple. That they reached a lot of fans. So that's just another reason why it's become so controversial.
Right.
But yeah, thanks for coming back to that.
Yeah, no, you're yeah. Thanks, Tim, very much. So, okay, so I think the topic was we're talking about the death of the mycelium network. So what do we think of this here? So am I reading too much into this, or do you think that this is actually going to be the death of mycelium network?
So the fact we don't see in a later Star Trek, I would go with your theory. I would say unfortunately, because I think it's quite fascinating. Just the whole the idea behind the mycelium network. But yeah, the fact we don't see it later on, something's going to happen, or does this use, or the people who are using it, the technology is going to go away, what have you.
See, because that's the other frustrating thing, is that the producers of the show, they're like, we'll have an explanation for this stuff by the end of the year, just stay with it, right? And it's like you got so much backlash from fans that as soon as they show something, they're just like, just wait, we'll tell you everything, right? Why isn't it here? Believe me, by the end of the show, you'll know why it's not there later. Right? Like, I don't know. So
is that us? Like, is that just Star Trek fandom too, though? That we're so, like, trying to figure out every little thing, and it almost forces the writers and everyone to be like, just wait. It's tough. It's tough. I picked up when Mirror Stamets was showing his arm to our Stamets, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it was like Armillaria ostoye, which is, again, I Googled it just to see exactly what it was, and it's just mushrooms again. It's a species of plant pathogenic fungus, so it's just, again, a mushroom. I thought maybe like that was a key to exactly what's going on, but it didn't quite make sense. So
it's especially since he's not really there too, right? Like it's just their mental projections, right? So
I mean that's what I understand. So I don't.
Maybe it's a representation of their brains being like fungal. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Decomposing or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, something. I mean, it was definitely that. I thought the entire scene on the Discovery with them talking and walking, I mean, that was pretty creepy. I thought it had kind of a horror feel to it. And then seeing whatever Mirror Stamets did that infected the network or damaged the network, like seeing that happening within the network was frightening. I didn't quite understand how their spore garden would be completely dead and no one noticed until just now. Did it just happen?
It would have been just happening now. So what I got is like he's been in a coma, so they haven't needed to go down there, right? Like they haven't needed to go in there. He's been in sick bay. He's been in a coma. He's been.
I mean, I guess they're not jumping,
right? So it's just.
I don't know. I feel like they would still be tending the plants because there were multiple people, I thought, involved in the spore system, and I don't know. I just feel like they would have. Unless it happened like instantaneously, that they would have kept, like, you don't just leave your garden alone when your gardener goes on vacation, you know?
The other thing, too, is they were treating Stamets with spores. And I would have assumed that it would consume the spores. So at some point, you'd have to go pull more spores out. And somebody would have to go, okay, let me go back to the garden and see if we got enough to replenish here. So if you're constantly using spores to, heal Stamets, somebody should be noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not consuming them, they're just kind of floating there. But that was my thought. I thought it was kind of odd that nobody had noticed.
Okay.
It just didn't quite jive.
If Mir Stamets has been working on, we're kind of now going a little bit into my theory, and I may just jump out and say it all right now, but if Mir Stamets has been lost in the mycelium drive, he's been working on a spore drive in the mirror universe, and he's on Georgiou's ship, which means Georgiou's ship has got a spore drive. And I mean, a lot of people thought last week that she was cloaked in some way, and I said last week, I'm like, no, she's got to have a spore drive. Because that's the only thing that would make any sense, right? Is like, that would tie everything together. So this palace ship has got some kind of spore drive on it, do you think?
I don't know, because she asked Burnham how they got into the universe.
Which she probably wouldn't have known.
And
right?
Burnham told her what it was, and then, I mean, she didn't act like she knew. So I didn't get the impression that she knew. I'm not sure what the deal is with that ship. I mean, the Charon is a magnificent, impressive, gigantic, titanic ship.
Yeah.
And then it's got this fiery orb thing. So I kind of want to know, like, I assume the fiery orb thing is their type of spore drive, maybe. I don't know. But I felt like she didn't know what it was. But again, who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. I think she does, and she's just playing. She's like, okay, well, she's playing for it here. Like, she's lying in that she doesn't know what it is. She's like, I want your specs, because if that's how you came here, then what I have is even more powerful than I realized. Is how I'm interpreting her thoughts on that. So, is there anything else we want to talk about Stamets before we move on? I think we're probably going to be covering Georgiou and Lorca all at the same time. We'll be passing back and forth. Is there any more on Stamets?
The only thing I saw some confusion online about which Stamets came back to which ship.
It was definitely the mirror that came to the mirror ship.
That's what I thought. And I just wanted to get a consensus, because I went back and rewatched the scene a few times to be sure.
Because he wakes up, he says, "I'm back." He did it.
Yeah.
So our Stamets was his key to get out. So he did it. I'm back. So.
Yeah, I think because that Mirror Stamets, when he came back and said that, the personality was much more alike our Stamets, because Mirror Stamets has a specific personality. So that's where I think maybe the confusion came from. But
yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely they're in their proper ships and whatnot. Because he's also like, I knew about Hugh when he got out, and the other guy couldn't have known about Hugh. Because he's like, who? Like when he was, right? So, anyways. Okay, so Georgiou, Lorca. We got a lot to unpack here. So, Georgiou is the mother figure. And I just got to call one thing. So, way back in the first episode, I'm like, I do not buy the mother-daughter relationship on these two women. And I still don't. From season 1, or episode 1 and 2. I don't buy it. It's not written like they are. It's not acted like they are. I do not buy a mother-daughter figure there. But because the writers said that was the reason why I was thinking ahead of time, she's got to be the mother instead of Sarek, right? She adopted Burnham instead of Sarek in this universe. That's the only thing that makes sense. And we've got this interesting dynamic that we thought... The information that we thought happened was that Mirror Lorca killed Mirror Burnham. Georgiou destroyed the Baran in retaliation. Mm-hmm. Okay? However, we find out something here that Lorca ended up being some kind of a father figure for a while, and then kind of turned into a lover? Tim?
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Yes, I did. I was like, So I really liked the Lorca character, and kind of saw what was coming. Well, at least him from the mirror universe pretty early on. Mm-hmm. As once we figured out there was a mirror universe. But the whole father-lover thing didn't really, I don't know, that seemed kind of tacked on. I don't know, it just didn't, or maybe I just don't want that to be the case.
It gives him the justification for getting this Burnham, right, as well. There's multiple reasons now for him to have this Burnham over there. So
I think that just being a father figure would have been enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me uncomfortable. And I'm the victim of a sexual predator who was a teacher, so not a father, but still a role like that where it's someone who's supposed to take care of you and nurture you. Like, to me, it's certainly a misstep. I don't want to watch Star Trek and feel uncomfortable in that way. And I know that's something that is only going to affect me because of my life experience, but obviously it's making other people kind of gag a little. So I don't think it's necessary. I think that it could have been enough that she is still the key to get back on the ship for him. And I certainly can see that father figure protectiveness with her. I never thought that they would be lovers in any situation.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming either. But I mean, like, we can't assume that it was a predatory situation, like, because we don't know this mirror Burnham, right? It could have been they fell in love, right? I mean, like, young people have fallen in love with old people before in situations like that. And, you know, we can read into it what we will. We don't know. I don't think it was necessary either, but it does add a layer to his reason to get her back. I believe that it would have been enough to just get her on because she was the daughter. I believe that was enough.
Yeah, it's the whole, like, setting him up as a father figure turning into that, which feels really uncomfortable to me. Yeah. Because that's really not, and it does happen in life. There are examples I could pull out. But consensus there. Like, do we really need it? No, but I guess we may see what's going to happen there once. Well, I guess we won't, but Burnham, we assume eventually will be reunited with Mirror Lorca. I don't think there's going to be any romance there, but maybe some kind of confrontation.
Well, do you think we might see Mirror Burnham? That's the one question that I'm asking at the end of this, is like, presumed dead. And I mean, in TV shows nowadays, presumed dead is as good as alive, right? Like,
yeah. I honestly hadn't gotten that far in my thinking because I don't think I really need or want to see a Mirror Burnham. I certainly think that gives them more story fodder, and they could do a lot with that. It would be interesting if the season ended on that note with her showing up, because we don't know. Like, we don't know what's going to happen when Discovery comes back.
Right.
There's been speculation. Is it going to be like the Sliders of the Star Trek universe?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It could happen. I mean, there are people who would really enjoy. I mean, that's something that we've not seen. It's something different, something that I imagine will get a lot of pushback from fans, but at the same time, it would give them a lot to play with. And the writers are going to do what they want to do at this point. So it wouldn't surprise me. But I think that, like, I have taken a bit of a mental break because of all the fan theories and everything. I'm watching right now with someone who is not a part of the Star Trek fandom online, and so he didn't see like any of this coming. Like, when the Mirror Lorca reveal happened, he was like, "What?" And it was great, like, getting to watch that and getting to see that with someone. So I kind of want that for myself now.
Right. Now, Tim, what did you think of the Mirror reveal?
Kind of expected it at least a couple episodes ago, so it wasn't a huge surprise. And I didn't like the fact that they were trying to give you reasons so quickly to hate the Lorca. I mean, the whole, like, like we already went over, the whole the relationship thing. I want them to build into why do you hate Lorca, because up to this point, I've actually really liked Lorca. He was probably my third favorite character. And so instead of just immediately giving you a reason to hate the character or whatnot, I just rather it kind of built into it and then be conflicted by it versus just, okay, bam, here you go, hate the character. Okay, yeah, he's Mirror Lorca, he's evil, blah. And I just felt it was very shallow. I kind of wished it was more conflicted. I don't know, but...
What if Mirror Lorca is really on the side of the rebels? Like, what if Mirror Lorca and Mirror Burnham were actually working with Vogue?
I don't
and all
that.
of... No, darn it.
Yeah.
I don't think that. Because, I mean, like, if you saw Vogue in the last episode there, he's like, aren't you the butcher of the binary stars? And he was, like, ready to kill her.
That's true.
Okay, so I want to talk about this. I've asked a few people about this, and I'm apparently the only person that has a problem with this. I'm fine that I'm the only person that has a problem with it. I just want to ask you what you guys think. I do not buy Burnham's logic leaps based on these little lines that Georgiou said for her to be like, oh yeah, he said that too. He must be from the mirror universe. Oh yeah! Like, he chose you. Oh, that's right. He did tell me that he chose me, and he did tell me it wasn't for the reason that I thought. He said something about destiny, and his destiny. That's right. He did say something about destiny. Oh, he must be from the mirror universe. And then I got a call red flag on this eye thing being all humans in the mirror universe have weak eyes. Now, I know this is something that they set up because in the second episode when Burnham's giving her monologue, she's like, even the light here is different. Okay? Still, I call a major foul and a major red flag on that. And Tim, I don't know what you know about the other mirror universes, but that ISS Enterprise in Mirror Mirror, that thing is not dark. And those people would be ripping their eyeballs out of their faces if they had problems with their eyes 10 years from now. And no, I don't believe that they suddenly had some cure to be able to turn the lights up. I don't know. I call foul. I don't know. Tim, what do you think?
So, I hate being spoon-fed a story. It was just way too much hand-holding for my taste. I thought just the fact that he was the only Star Trek captain to abandon his ship, that was enough to tell me, okay, that something's not right here. That was enough to kind of start the ball of, he isn't quite who he says he is. I didn't need all the extra stuff. I think that one little bit of any person, even what little I've seen of Star Trek, that was enough to tell me, okay, something's not quite right here. And to go ahead and start getting the ball rolling. I didn't need the whole eyeball thing or the whole, he said that or blah, blah. That was too much spoon feeding for my taste. Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was all unnecessary. I think Star Trek, a captain will never, ever, ever abandon his vessel. He'll go down with the ship with his people. And the fact that he didn't, that was enough right then and there to say, okay, he's not from here.
Okay,
something's
now,
up.
I'm going to add on that. Sorry to interrupt you here, Heather, but I don't think that he did abandon his crew.
He didn't. He died with his crew.
That's right. Our Lorca died with his ship, right? And he came back and made up this story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
that would have been...
I think he made up the story because Mudd put him on the spot. Right? So that's what I think. I think that's when that story happened. But I could be wrong on that. So it could have been before that. Maybe I'm wrong on that too, because they did kind of talk about him having the stain of losing his crew. But who knows? So yeah, it would have been earlier than that. Anyways, Heather, what do you think of this logic jumps for Burnham?
It was a lot. It didn't take me out of the moment. The pace of this episode, despite it being like the shortest Star Trek episode you've ever seen, the pace of this episode kept me engaged the entire time. And so I knew it was coming, and I guess I was just kind of along for the ride there. So it didn't take me out of it. I agree, if you sit down and think about it, it's a bit far-fetched. And I definitely don't like the fact that everyone has this eye sensitivity or light sensitivity. Like, I thought that would be something specific to Lorca, what it would be, whatever. But it being all of them is a little like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I call foul on that one. You know what?
Especially when you got a glowing orb on your ship.
I was just going to say that. You know what? I got sore eyes. You know what I should do? I should probably put a sun in the center of my ship here and then open the window. Like, I don't know.
It's definitely, I enjoy that we're in the mirror universe. I think it's been fun. I think this is just the writers and directors. I think it's just them relying on that kind of montage type scene to bring it together. And to bring it together more so for the viewer than really the characters. And they just didn't quite think that part through.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was like, yeah, like I knew it was coming, but I was still really excited when it happened. So, I don't know.
I'm fine that I'm the only one with the problem. I mentioned it to Trek Geeks Bill, and he's like, I don't care. I mentioned it to my wife. She's like, I don't care. I don't know. So I mentioned it to somebody at work today, too, and he's like, I don't care. So I don't know. I'm probably the only person who has a problem with it.
I'm the only person that didn't care. It was 45 minutes or whatever. You know, everybody has their thing, and that was a big deal to a lot of people. And I was like, it was a great episode.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay, so talking about the pacing of the show, though, there's one thing that I wish they would do. Like, honestly, do they not know how to put a reaction shot in here? Was that Saru that they ate or what? Because
no,
that certainly looked like Saru to me. I've watched it 3 times, and I still think it's Saru.
It looks like Saru. It's not. Like, if it had been Saru, it would have been like the guy on the right who was taller than everybody else. She picked that Kelpian because that Kelpian looked at her with like a pleading look. And I think even that look kind of made us think, like, is that Saru? Because he did look like Saru.
It looked exactly like Saru.
The facial makeup looked a lot like him. And she didn't know what she was picking him out for either.
That's right.
So perhaps she thought she was saving this guy. Just because of Doug Jones's height and his lankiness, that's how I identified that it wasn't him. I think it was just a random dude.
Well, my question was, if it was him, how the heck did he get over to that ship? Right?
Yeah,
that's why I was so confused. Tim, did you think that was Saru?
Okay, so I didn't think it was Saru. I thought it was another Kelpian, but I thought the only reason she chose him just because he looked like Saru. I didn't think she thought anything more than that. She had no idea what was going on. So she saw a somewhat familiar face and gravitated towards that.
That
was my
close-up reaction shot of him. Like, the thing's only 37 minutes. You can't put another 2-second reaction shot in this episode to clear it up. Like, I remember when Lorel first came on in Choose Your Pain. Half the internet was like, that's not Lorel, and half the internet was like, that's Lorel. Like, it was unclear. And there's been a lot of things in the show, a lot of plot points where it's taken me multiple viewings to figure out what happened. And this one I saw 3 times, and I was still convinced that was Saru.
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't think it is. But what got me was that when she finds out she's eating a Kelpian, you know, Sonequa Martin Green with her amazing facial acting is like gonna puke a little in her mouth. And yet Georgiou is like, obviously, you know, Mira Burnham has grown up eating Kelpian. So if I suddenly notice my friend is reacting that way to something they've eaten their entire life, I'd be like, so what's up with you? Like, that would give me away that something's going on.
Right.
Not waiting to catch her in a lie or whatever. I found that funny because they made a point to show her face and show how disgusted she was.
Right. Yep.
Rightfully so, but still, like,
yeah, I would totally be puking.
Like, you would have picked up that something was going on if you were Georgiou sitting across from her, watching her react like that. So,
yeah. Now, gotta say, totally saw Mira Lorca, but had no idea they were going to eat Kelpian. Completely out of the blue, no idea.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody did.
Nope.
So, I assume the same thing. She's like, who do I save? Who's going to be my slave on this ship? That's like what I totally thought. But I just got to ask, do they taste like chicken or fish?
Apparently they taste delicious.
They taste delicious.
Regardless. Yeah, this mirror universe, between that and the violence in this episode, which caught me a little off guard,
Yeah, that guy's head exploding, like, holy smokes.
Yeah. The funny thing, and I'll throw this out there since you didn't watch After Trek, is that the disc that she uses originally came from a fidget spinner. Like, the writers were just sitting there, I think Aaron Harberts and Gretchen Berg were sitting there with Jordan Nardino and made a joke about what if you threw a fidget spinner. And thus this thing was born. But, I was like, wow, okay, that's more than I expected to see. And then we had a guy blow up. So I think, yeah, it was an interesting episode.
Okay, now, I don't know what you, Tim, tell me what you think. I did not predict that Burnham would be confessing that she's from the Prime timeline at all, at any time. So that was awesome. That completely caught me off guard. I'm like, what is going to happen now? Tim, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, I did not expect that, and I gotta say the highlight of the entire episode is as soon as she threw that fidget spinner, I totally thought Cruel from the 80s. That was my mind immediately went to the movie Cruel. I was like, yes!
I haven't seen it.
Oh! You have, it's 80s nostalgia. You have to see it. But yeah, I didn't think she'd give up the ghost. I thought she'd... but I also felt the end of the episode felt a little rushed too. But maybe that was just me. Like they're kind of cramming a whole bunch of stuff into it. Because there was a couple parts where I would like to have had a few extra seconds of just digestion time versus just like bam, bam, bam.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Heather?
Very interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. And that's where I have to applaud the writing team, because despite the fact that we're not surprised by so much that happens, there are still things like this that are surprising. Mm-hmm. So I didn't expect it at all. And I actually like the fact that after that, you know, their conversation was civil, mature, respectful. I thought that was pretty nice because these are some brutal mirror people. So yeah, it just continues to set up good segues into these next episodes and seeing what's going to happen and seeing what else we're going to be surprised by.
Yeah, because we've only got 3 more. So, well, then now we're going to jump into our predictions. What do we think we're going to see? Tim, what do you think we're going to see coming up here? We've only got 3 episodes left. Any predictions?
I'm going to put this out there. I still think we're going to see Culber come back. I know everybody's probably against that, but I think we're in some way, shape, or form. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of Stamets, which is great by me. I love seeing him. And I think by the time we're all done with this whole mirror universe, everything's going to be blown up.
Everything's going to be blown up.
The lead
like
ship, everything. Film. The rebels are going to come in and like clean up the house at the very end.
Right on.
I want to see the fall of the Empire. I really do.
Well, we know that can't happen. Not yet, because we've still got 10 more years until Mirror Mirror, right? So, Heather, what do you think? Any predictions?
Oh, man. It's like I said, I kind of don't want to predict stuff anymore because we spent a season doing that and then not being surprised by what's going to happen. I think that we're finally going to learn what those black badges were. Not really. That was a bad joke. It's more questions. Are we going to see Lorca survive this season? I hope so, because I also love Lorca. I think he's been a really fascinating captain. Regardless of which universe he's from, he's been an enigma and is something that has kept me guessing all along. I'm just curious to see what these resolutions are, because back in the Prime universe, we had the end of the war happening. We know that the war story is not going to continue. So how is that going to get wrapped up? How is L'Rell's story going to end? I think I'm just more looking forward to finding out these answers instead of speculating about them.
Okay. So before I tell you what mine is here, I'm going to ask you the question. How do you think they're going to get back?
Are they?
Okay. Are they? I think they are. I think they're going to end up back in our own timeline by the end. Tim, do you think they're going to get back?
I think so. I think at the very end, Stamets is going to come through and just... I think that's going to be the resolution to this whole arc, I guess. Will be the very end, Stamets pulls through, they take Discovery back, and bam. And then we're into another season. Mm-hmm.
And then the other question...
That's my prediction.
The other question that's a part of the theory is, how do you think that Lorca got over to our universe?
I'm not even. I'm ready for your theories, because, like I said, I've checked out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was talking with a friend online, and he gave me the one nugget that I needed on it. Okay, so how did Lorca get to the other universe? I think that he's working with Stamets, Mirror Stamets. And I think that's
Stamets.
Mirror Stamets using the mycelium network got him over there. That's what I think happened. They bring him over. But with the mycelium network dying, so the first thing is, I think that the Defiant is a red herring. I don't think we're going to see the Defiant at all. I don't think that the interphasic is going to get them back at all because, you got to account for the time displacement. And just because interphasic space was happening 10 years from now doesn't mean it's happening now. And I think the mycelium network is going to die. So we're going to have a fake out where they think that they're not going to be able to get back. However, right at the end, I think the only logical conclusion for how they're going to get back is the tardigrade is going to come back and save them and get them home in the end.
Oh my God. Well, that would be a lot better than like Stamets doing the final jump and also dying. Because at that point, I think I'll check out of Discovery. But good old Ripper.
It's got to be the tardigrade. I don't know. Like with the way that they're trying to pull this symmetry from back to front. And I haven't seen anybody talking about this online yet. So it's Monday night as I'm recording this, so we're not going to hear this. Nobody's going to hear this one until Friday, but nobody's talking about how they're going to get back, and like nobody's addressing the fact that this mycelium network is dying. And I think those are two huge, awesome things. And I don't know. I don't think this, I think they have no more spores on their ship, so they can't use him, so they've got to use the tardigrade. And I mean, keep in mind, on the other ship, the tardigrade didn't have the spores. They were growing their own something or other, right? And they were just using the tardigrade for it. So that's my crazy theory. I think it's a pretty good one. So anyways, I built it up. It might be nothing. I built it up. It may be everybody's disappointed in my theory now. So
long live Ripper. I have a plushie Ripper. I sleep with him every night. So hey, I think that would probably be kind of cheesy. But
he does
if it happens, I'm like, I don't know.
And I think there's only one. That's the thing too. I think that for that to work, there must be only one tardigrade, and that's why they can't find it. Right, because remember that they were looking for them, right? They were on a search for it, and they mentioned it. They couldn't find any. I think there's only one of these things.
It's the Highlander of tardigrades.
There's only one.
There's only one. 3 episodes. And this is going to get wrapped up. So either we are going to have all of the answers by the end of the season, or we are going to have some answers, have some questions, and have to wait at least a year to find out.
And they'll end up on Ryza. I don't know.
Oh, that would be.
Tim, Heather, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate it. Tim, we can't find you online. What if people want to talk to you? Tweet Suzanne?
That would work. My wife does keep up with all that.
If you want to talk to Tim, find him on Suzanne's Twitter account, which is, do you even know it?
I guess
K Janeway 8. That's the letter K, Janeway, and the number 8. So you can find her there. You can also message her in the Babel conference. That's where you can find Suzanne. Heather, where can people find you online?
I am LLA Posper on Twitter, and then my Discovery podcast is Disco_Trek. And I pop around in the Babel conference and around on Trek FM. So Google me. I'm there somewhere.
Excellent. Right on. And before I sign off here, I got to make the credit here. The friend that I was tweeting who gave me that nugget of information that it's got to be Stamets and Lorca working together is my friend Michael Wong, who's been on the podcast a couple of times. He's been on this one twice, and he's been on Warp 5 with us once already. So check out his podcast, Strange New Worlds, which is a science and Star Trek podcast. It's great. Well, talking about Star Trek Mirror Universe is not the only thing we've been discussing this week here on the network. So take a quick listen to this clip and see what else you may have missed elsewhere on Trek FM.
Previously on Trek.fm, Warp 5.
Like, Mario is not a good person, and I don't like him. But when he openly mistreats Luigi is when I hate him. Is when I make the decision, I don't want him to make it through this. I don't want him to make it to the end at all.
The Orb.
That blanket really helped the show because it didn't end up turning into what Voyager did, which is we got to launch a network. This has to be this. It has to be put in a box that we can't get out of, you know. Like Deep Space Nine takes the box, crumples it up, and throws it in the corner.
The 602 Club.
I love it. Have I said that enough? I think I said earlier that I was waiting to get to Timothy Dalton. Not to knock on Roger Moore, but I didn't like Roger Moore as much as I liked Dalton and then Connery and then Craig.
The Ready Room.
Since early 92, I was lucky enough to get the contract to do the companion for Next Generation. Went out for a week to LA when DS9 was still very, very secret. And my first glimpse of DS9 was knowing that they were working on it. And, like the script was being passed around in unmarked envelopes between the offices.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
So check out all these shows and join in the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek mirror universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're an Apple user, please be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts on iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, or in the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating and a written review, and we will send you a coupon for a free bowl of Kelpian stew. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways that you can do that. The best place to join in the larger conversation is the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, that's B-A-B-E-L, into the search field on Facebook, and it should come right up. If you'd like to send us an email, you can use the form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose Send to a Show and select The Edge. That will come right to us. You can also find the network on Twitter at TrekFM and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. You can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Shea. You can also find me podcasting here on the network with the show called Warp 5, which is our Star Trek Enterprise podcast, and my new hosts, Brandy and Patrick, are going to be joining me every week from now on. You can also find me over on the Fandom Podcast Network with my friends Chris and Tom, and we talk about Alfred Hitchcock movies, so that's a lot of fun. I also show up in the Babel Conference every once in a while. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/TrekFM. That's patreon.com/TrekFM to get all the details. Perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content, producer credits, and more, available through our special patrons website, Patron Zone. It requires a great deal of money to produce, host, and distribute these shows each month. We really appreciate any support you can give us and hope you'll join the team. Again, you'll find all the details at patreon.com/TrekFM. Well, at this time, we definitely need to give a great big shout out to all of our wonderful associate producers here on The Edge, and we appreciate their support of not only the show, but the network itself. Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoab Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, and Cornelia Reitner. Thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate all your support. We definitely couldn't do it without you. Well, I guess that's all we got for you this week, so make sure you tune in next week to find out what we've been doing on the edge of Federation space.